Welcome everyone to Nerdwide.com's weekly podcast titled Hero Cravings, the Arrowverse. We cover and break down all CW Arrowverse shows episode by episode for you, the listener. I'm your host, Tom Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Chris Rivers.
Howdy, y'all.
Quick housekeeping before we jump into this actually a pretty good episode of Arrowverse. Don't forget to share, rate, and review this podcast on whatever podcasting service you use. We are officially on YouTube and are uploading every one of our episodes to there as well, so make sure you subscribe to us at youtube.com/nerdwide. Don't forget that Chris recaps Blacklist and Blindspot at purefandom.com, so make sure you check out his recaps there. And don't forget we do our weekly questions starting Mondays on Twitter, not so much Facebook right now, because we're getting a lot of audience votes on Twitter. So we mainly do our polls, and we'll give you our questions at the end of this episode. Now, this is our 31st official episode. Let me give you a quick recap of how the show is going to go down. Each week, we go through all of the Arrowverse TV episodes in order as they air, and we're going to bring you our thoughts and reactions to every single one of those episodes. That being said, we're going to jump right into it with Supergirl episode 316, titled Of Two Minds. We start off, and we find out that Pestilence has been killing off the pigeons we saw from last week in the area, and that the disease spreads to humans. Apparently, it is 100% fatal and very contagious. They said, of course, we got this information from Brainy and Imra, more so than anybody. We see Imra back for the first time since the hiatus, and she wants to kill Pestilence and Brainy? Is that what you put here?
Yeah, she's wanting to kill Pestilence.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, so and of course there's a very moral conflict there with her and Supergirl, because Supergirl does not kill, and she was like, whoa, this is not how we do things here. Meanwhile, Lena is still running tests on Sam and Rain to figure out how to help Sam. We see that she has to put extreme pain into Sam to, contact Rain, pretty much. And Sam would actually go into this weird multiverse / alternate reality where Rain is, and she was actually for the first time able to talk to Rain. And Rain was like, you've kept me dormant for a long time, and from what I understand and from what she said, Ruby, that little, what'd she call her? Like a pest, not a pest, a parasite, Ruby.
Yeah.
And which was rough. So of course we learned that, and she's not happy with Rain and how she's talking and everything. We see that Imra puts the City Hall on quarantine by herself because City Hall is the first place to get hit with this disease, as well as these pigeons. And she puts a force field around City Hall, and it causes like a real mass panic, even though the DEO and Supergirl had it under control, but she didn't think that it was the way that it was supposed to be. We see that the Legion, mainly Mon-El and Imra, are getting blood drawn from their ship, because they have the cure inside of their blood for Pestilence. We see that Wynn gets infected with whatever the Pestilence is spreading. And then we see that the cure does not work from our Legion members, and Wynn is getting worse and worse because this is a different strain than what they were, because it's the Blight in the future. So it's a different strain, so that the cure that they have in them doesn't work for the Pestilence. And then, as we're discovering this, we see Alex fall down, and of course she is the next victim of Pestilence. We turn out that the Pestilence is the ER doc we came into contact with earlier this episode. At first, we thought it was a nice little intern / cookie lady for City Hall, and it was not her. I mean, she's giving cookies to everybody, Chris. She can't be that bad. Why would y'all think of that in the first place? But come on.
Exactly. Well, she didn't give any cookies to us, but
that's a good point too. But we see a pretty cool fight scene between who the actual Pestilence, the ER doc is, and Supergirl. And then we see Supergirl actually get scratched by Pestilence. And then Imra stabs her with stabs Pestilence, with some sort of toxin. She was trying to kill her, obviously, and it's been the whole thing for this whole episode. We, obviously, the the poison or toxin didn't work because, again, different strain than what they know in the future. We we see that after this, fight scene goes down, Purity shows up from several weeks of not seeing her, and she takes Pestilence away. And then we found out that when Imra stabbed Pestilence, we were able to get a blood sample from her, so we can make an updated cure for our team. And then, as a nice little touching moment between Imra and Supergirl, we see that the reason Imra is so hellbent on killing Pestilence, is because she had a sister, and her sister was actually killed by Blight. So it was a nice little revenge thing. And Imra said you would do the exact same thing for Alex, which we know that would be true, 100%. So, and then we find out that all three of our world killers are stronger together and are pretty much virtually unstoppable. Supergirl and the team find out that Lena was holding Rain, Sam and Rain together, but and then everything started clicking for the team that Sam is Rain, and then of course, Pestilence and Purity come down, take Rain, and they're all stronger together. Nobody can take them down, and that ends that episode. Now, I felt like it was a real good episode because we got a lot of plot development. We, finally Supergirl knows who Rain is. I think that's gonna cause a problem with Lena and Supergirl because, Supergirl's always like, why didn't you tell me? Because they were supposed to have this good relationship, but
right.
Who knows? I enjoyed it. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to highlight on this episode. We, of course, early numbers for this one, 0.5 rating, which is up 0.1, 1.50 million viewers, which is up 0.12, and next episode is titled Trinity. Now, in the comics, the Trinity is Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but I don't think that's the Trinity we're talking about for Supergirl.
That would be amazing.
Just to bring in Batman, who hadn't even mentioned at all.
Well, we got a mention, didn't we? I know we got one on Arrow, but I thought we had one on Supergirl too. But it wasn't Batman specifically. Didn't they say something about Gotham?
Yeah, it might be about Gotham then, because it's been a while since I think we've seen it. And of course, we haven't seen Superman in a while, which is still kind of crappy for me because
I have a feeling
when Supergirl got destroyed live on camera, don't you think Superman would have flown in and been worried about her?
You would think. I have a feeling in the finale he shows up.
Yeah,
because this is a major, opponent.
Mm-hmm. So, especially technically they're 3 Kryptonians, but they were all made in labs. So yeah. I'm curious to see how we do this. Next show on the agenda is Flash episode 420, titled "Therefore She Is." This was a pretty good one. Don't have a whole lot of notes for this because a lot of just interwoven filler content. But we start off with 8 years ago with DeVoe and his wife meeting for the first time. When they first met, it was at a college conference. It looks like they were having a debate of humanity and stuff with a bunch of other professors. And DeVoe actually challenges Lady DeVoe. You know what? I'm going to actually stop calling her Lady DeVoe and give her her real name. Her name is Marlize. And so I'm going to stop calling her Lady DeVoe. I feel like she's had enough development. She gets her own name.
That's very nice of you, Tyler.
I know.
I think we should point out real quick, too, that this episode just proved that DeVoe was always a jackass.
Yeah, it didn't stop. It didn't just start. It's been a long time coming thing. During this little college conference thing, or meeting of the minds, if you will, we kind of get a little bit of a mention of what DeVoe wants for what's going on with his thinking. We see them get they look like they got married. It was their first apartment. I'm assuming they were already married by this point. But as Marlize and DeVoe are moving in, DeVoe heads out to go get some food for their apartment to stock it up in some wine. Marlize finds a journal that DeVoe's been writing over the multiple years. And we see that he is wanting to enlighten the world. He says that technology has been a big problem in the world and that it's ruining humanity. But Marlies was not happy about this, and I'm just gonna run through her what we've seen her of them to this whole episode. She eventually leaves where they live at in the apartment, and she goes over. I'm assuming it's like I think they had a location, but I wasn't really paying attention. Somewhere over in Africa, and she's working to get purified water for the inhabitants of the country she's at. We see DeVoe call her, and he looks like a complete wreck without her. He's like, I need you. This is what do I need to do to get you to come back home? I need you back home because she said, these people need me, and he said, well, I need you more, type thing.
Mm-hmm.
We find out that the local militant group comes and kills everybody, like blows a bomb up and takes her device. And DeVoe is on the phone while this happens. He freaks out, flies all the way there, and brings her back home once she's safe. And that's pretty much like the only little prequel stuff we got for this couple. And then, so let's bring it back to Team Flash. We see that Cisco has still not given Breacher the answer to his job offer yet. He's kind of delaying it for some reason. And then we see that the team is trying to bring Killer Frost back by increasing her adrenaline. That's, so we get Vibe trying to, hurt her. Not really hurt her, but kind of mess with her to try to get that adrenaline up. It did not work. But what did happen was that we realized that Harry is losing his intelligence. Cisco and Harry come clean to the team of what's going on with him. And of course we find out later in the episode, though, but every time he uses his brain, he loses it. So, but my thing is, you're always using your brain. So, you think,
well,
I don't know.
They probably just meant every time he exerts himself beyond the normal brain activity.
Gotcha.
But the cool little thing was Cecile found a way to help him.
Yes. And it's the first time we've seen Cecile in a while. And,
yeah.
And she's very much pregnant now. Which is going to play into later in the episode. I can't wait to talk about.
That's not a little bun in the oven. That's like a cake.
Yeah. Hold on. I gotta pause this. Could you hear the dogs?
Yes.
Okay, what the hell? Hold on. They were fighting with each other. What am I at?
Hey, Hero gonna whoop that ass.
Shoot. Edit 11:30 on OBS. Hold on, I'm gonna make sure everything's okay down there.
All right.
I'm just gonna call real quick.
Tinky.
What happened?
I'm trying to keep them quiet. I know you're trying to do that.
What happened?
But they're just, I don't know what the problem is. They're not even into the food bowls anymore. There's Heroes chasing Ollie, making that face at him, and then Ollie finally was like, I'm not taking your shit anymore. So he turned around and started making a face, and they circled each other in the living room and then attacked each other.
Okay. Well.
And the food's put up, so it's not that.
Probably need to put Hero up then, because it sounds like Hero's being a dick.
Yeah, well, I don't know what provoked it, though. But they were being aggressive, like I couldn't even split them up. They were like...
I know, that's why I stopped recording, because I was about to run down there, and by the time I got up and paused and everything, he stopped.
Yeah, I made Zoe move, because they scared me.
Yeah. Well, put Hero up, and let Oliver stay out.
Alright, love you.
Love you, bye. Animals. Alright. So 11:30.
Filthy animals.
You filthy animals. Alright. So where were we at? We were talking about the bun in the oven. Let's double check.
Yeah, I can just repeat that real quick if you want.
Okay.
I don't know, it's kind of a throwaway line, but whatever.
No, it's fine. Well, I'll... crap. I'm trying to think of, because where I paused at. We're talking about...
You're talking about Cecile is quite pregnant now.
Yeah. We'll restart with that then. Let's see. And then on Amalto, 12 minutes. Re-edit everything. All right, here we go. Yeah, and this is the first time that we've seen Cecile in quite a while, and she's quite pregnant this
Yeah,
episode.
That's not a bun in the oven. That's a cake.
Really, Chris?
That's like a triple layer cake.
Right. I mean, she's about to pop.
Yeah.
We see that DeVoe is going around trying to collect multiple materials. We assume it's for one thing, but we find out that it's for multiple things. But he made a security guard kill himself. And
that was just cruel.
Yeah, he was like, we find out the guy was, I think they said 22 or 24 years old, had a baby on the way, just got married. And I'm just like, oh, come on. But DeVoe was like, he told Marlize, he said, we knew there was going to be casualties. And he shouldn't have seen it or anything. But I was like, what's having him there going to do? You could have easily froze him like you freeze everybody else and then teleported out of there. I don't understand what the whole part of this was. But I think we're starting to see that DeVoe is losing more and more of himself.
Control.
Yeah. And he's absorbed way too many people. And it's affecting Marlize, but to the point that we've seen over the past several weeks that she's not really in control of her own life because of DeVoe. He's drugging her, he's taking away memories, he's doing multiple things to her. But we see that Gypsy finally returns back home. We see an awkward...
Yay!
Yeah, it was good seeing her. We haven't seen her in a while either. And we see that her and Cisco are being very weird around each other. And they led us to believe it's because he hadn't accepted or denied the job offer yet. But Barry does find out about the job offer while they were having a nice little quabble between each other and arguing. And Barry, of course, the whole job offer, for those of you who don't really remember, the whole job offer was Breacher retired, which is Gypsy's dad, and he asked if Cisco wanted to take over his place. It's been, I want to say, like 3 or 4 episodes since all that happened, and he hasn't really given an answer to anybody. And it was very emotional, very good episode for Cisco, but we'll get to that later. We find out that Barry finds out what is going on with DeVoe's plan. He's attempting to make multiple satellites and not just like one device. Of course, we don't know what he's trying to do. Of course, we do, the viewers, because he's trying to make a device that's going to wipe out some of the technology in the world, and he wants to take over people's brains, which classic DeVoe, or classic supervillain. But we see that DeVoe tries to kill Gypsy, but Lady DeVoe tries talking him out of it, but then he freezes Marlize as well, and she eventually talked him out of it, and he did end up freeing Gypsy. That was I feel like we saw a little bit more of Marlize having more of a backbone this episode, but not so much here in a minute. We see that Cisco and Gypsy actually break up due to Gypsy not wanting more. Cisco, of course, they finally got this out and about, and they had a very emotional scene. Cisco wants to live with Gypsy. He wants a relationship. He doesn't want all of this. Essentially, what he basically wants is her to come to this earth and everything, but he's very understanding. He says, I know that's not going to happen. But he said, please tell me you at least want more from what we have. And Gypsy was like, I don't. And
she's pretty much good with friends with benefits. And
yeah. Well, they're in a relationship, but she just doesn't want to advance it. She's fine with where they are right now.
They say it's a relationship, but they're never with each other.
That's a value point too. So it's just, I feel bad for Cisco, because we've seen him over multiple seasons, obviously, and I feel like this is his one girlfriend, or whatever you want to call her, that he truly loves and cares about. And the fact that she doesn't want more in anything, and eventually, she goes back to her world, and that's it. They have one little last kiss, and I'm assuming that's all we see of them. What we do see is we flash back over to the DeVoes, and we see Marlize traps DeVoe, and she says she's going to the Enlightenment. She, this is all her plan all along, and she's actually going to do it. So
Mm.
it was a nice little twist there, but
Right.
I'm curious to see how we do that because I assumed that Marlise was going to be the one who talked to some sensitive DeVoe, but she's like, no, this was my idea. I'm going to do it. So, and then we go to the baby shower for uh, Joe and Cecile. We see, they're having a girl and everyone's bringing gifts. They get a random knock on the door. And guess who it is, Chris? It is the mystery girl we first were introduced in the crossover. She drops
I'm
off.
I'm surprised she was able to find her way out of Jitters.
Yeah, because we had a
she-
jitter scene with between Cecile and Harry, and I could have swore she was going to show up again.
Right.
But she knocks on the door, gives like a giant gift, and she was talking about family and everything like that. And then she kind of pans over and sees Iris. And then Joe and Cecile said, "Hey, Iris, come look! Look what we just got. We just got someone dropped this off for us." And Iris kind of walks to the door, and she's not there anymore. And then we kind of pan around a corner, and she's got her back to the corner, hiding from Iris. And then we see her run away, and she is in fact a speedster. Which so many questions coming from that. Of course, it's the questions we've had for so many episodes every time we see her. But with her being a speedster, Chris, I know we talked about it in the pre-show, but either she is Barry and Iris's daughter, or somehow she is Joe and Cecile's daughter, and she potentially has a grudge against Iris, and that's why she's kind of keeping away from her. So I don't know. But with her being a speedster, though, it's kind of like, well, it kind of has to be Barry's kid potentially, but I don't know.
Well, maybe. I do have a little something from our friends at comicbook.com.
Okay.
Regarding the finale. It's not spoilery, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you the gist. Jenna Anderson's the writer who published this, and there's going to be a double cliffhanger with the finale.
A double cliffhanger.
Right. The first cliffhanger dealing with the identity of the mystery girl. And according to let me see here. Let me get the right name. According to executive producer Todd Helbing, he says you get the question answered as to who she is. There's actually an extra little bonus where something happens where you'll realize exactly how she'll play a part in the future. At the same time, he said to expect the finale to introduce some sort of new villain for the 5th season. And his quote was, "Most people that are familiar with comics will probably be able to deduce who the big bad is for next season."
Interesting. I'm trying to think.
So,
then. Oh, I hope it's Godspeed. I think we're okay with having it. Well, I don't know. I think we talked about it before. Actually, it was in our Hero Cravings special where we talked about the renewals. But I would love for Godspeed to be the villain. But I don't know if we're ready I don't know if we need another speedster right now. Because we've had three seasons of speedsters.
Well, especially if your villain is going to be a speedster next year, and the mystery girl is a speedster, it's like, all right, enough already.
Yeah,
we got to have people with different abilities here.
That's a lot to consider, and of course, I think we still have 3 episodes of Flash before we get to that season finale. Yeah, we've got 3 episodes from now will be the season finale. But before we get there, early numbers for this episode: 0.6 rating, which is steady, 1.70 million viewers, which is down 0.20, and this is the lowest overnights ever. I don't see too much of a problem for this. Obviously, we've already got a renewed season. But, and then next episode is going to be a special one, especially since, Chris, we both you and I love Tom Cavanaugh. It is Harry and the Harrisons, and I'm pretty sure the Council of Wells comes back into play.
I haven't seen all of the previews, but what I did see, Amulet Black is back.
Yeah, I think she's trying to help the fight against a Vo.
Yeah,
So I'm curious because she'll actually be at Heroes and Villains this weekend too.
she will be. Yeah.
So I wonder if we'll have to for sure watch that episode before we go.
Oh, absolutely.
uh, Next show we have here is Arrow episode 621, docket number 11, 1941 73. This is the trial of Oliver Queen. Oh man, was this a fun one. So we find out that Diaz has brought in a special attorney, which the actress's name is Catherine Dent. And yes, Chris, this is General Hale from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you pay attention to our multiverse episodes, she is one of the villains for this season. The actress
Well,
is.
all I can say is with what happened on Shield this week, she better be glad she landed this gig.
Right. She'll apparently she's like an extremely good prosecutor and lawyer and attorney or whatever she is. And so Diaz has like brought her in to nail the coffin to Arrow's to Oliver's coffin. We see that Oliver, which this is a nice little callback too, as his attorney has been the attorney we have seen since season 1, played by Terrell Rothery.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in just about every season that they've needed a lawyer. So I think that's a nice little callback to having her in it. And then, of course, the trial of Oliver Queen finally starts. We see that the first person that testifies is the doc from the ER. If you remember last season when Black Canary or Earth One Laurel died, Arrow brought her to the ER and tried to get her help. And she testifies that she was not really paying attention to who was under the hood when she was brought in, so she couldn't really identify if it was Oliver Queen or not. Of course, I'm pretty sure we know that she did know it was Oliver Queen, but she's just protecting him because we've got a city where, Green Arrow, the Hood, whatever you want to call them, has protected this city for 6 seasons now. So you got to think that not everyone in this city wants the Green Arrow away. But the next person to testify to and against Oliver is Diggle, and then Dinah right after that, which were a lot of things were brought into the light as far as the public knows. And I thought that Catherine Dent, who played this lawyer, she did a real good job of getting all these facts. I mean, she's a real good lawyer. I can understand why she's one of the most popular ones everyone goes after in the show. But we see like a lot of things that she talked about Diggle and all the past with him, and then we see that with Dinah, she brings up the person who supposedly killed her husband, boyfriend, whatever he was, just randomly died, but the thing that really gets here is we see that Diaz is on to Laurel, and that she's been keeping her distance from him. Now, of course, obviously, when I refer to Laurel, we're talking about Earth 2's Black Siren Laurel. So it's taken a while for me to wrap my head around that we're not going to get Earth 1 Laurel back. So I'm just going to start calling her Laurel. But
yeah,
what went to me is her name instead of calling her Black Siren.
I mean, I think she's inching toward that again, though. Like, it's almost, I think she's on a path to become sort of the second version of the Laurel that we knew.
Yeah, and she's and of course that's all thanks to her Earth One daddy, Quentin Lance.
Yeah.
But we see that Diaz is not happy that Laurel's been keeping her distance, and he even chokes her out and has a nice couple words to her.
I didn't understand that either, because I mean, yes, everybody that matters pretty much in Star City he has on his payroll.
Right.
But we know how court systems work. I mean, you can't ignore that fact. So he can't buy off everybody.
Right.
And you wouldn't want to be seen with the key witness against Oliver Queen.
Yeah.
On a regular basis, when this thing gets appealed, and most likely in a real world type setting, it would get appealed. if he was found guilty. So I would think if I were in his shoes, I would want her to keep her distance from me, just so it keeps any suspicions about her being on the take
I think
out
it's
of the
like a
way.
power move for him because Diaz's whole thing has all been about power.
I think it just likes having her around.
Yeah,
But I
booty
mean,
call. Um,
it's
yeah, it's so. And we've talked about Renee, and we've talked about some of our problems with the writing of the season. I'm gonna throw another one your way. So Renee is the next person to testify, and of course we know the FBI has got, that's the whole that caused the shift was with Renee and the FBI and everything. But not Diaz, Renee is put on the stand, and he suddenly flips and says that, he's not the Green Arrow and he's protecting him and stuff like that. And I'm just like, because he tells the B team, as I like to call them, that he is not screwing Oliver over again, and he says we all need to work our way to help Oliver. What changed, Chris? Did I
I
miss something?
man, I don't know.
And and we didn't get
This
one
was
Haas this whole episode.
I thought we got one.
If it was it might have been at the very beginning then.
I so my problem with this is it's almost just awful. And look, the writers generally do a good job on this show. They really really do. But I don't understand how he knew this was coming, right?
Right,
There
and he
was
was the one
no
who was going to testify against him to begin with.
yeah, and he's the one that turned on him, and he says, I'm not gonna." How was it he put it? I'm not gonna uh, stab him in the back again, or whatever it
Yeah,
was. It, but yet you've been holding this grudge against him.
and we even had this grudge being held last episode with Diggle. You
It
know,
doesn't make any, and well, but with Diggle, as soon as Diggle just said, "Hey man, I'm sorry," he was like, "All's forgiven."
right? But
Oliver
Oliver hadn't
made it
done anything.
right. I mean, well, he spied on him,
Yeah.
but he had reason to spy on Renee.
Well, I mean, what I was saying
But
is he didn't do anything between last episode and this episode for him to forgive Oliver.
no,
So
but
I don't.
at the same time, he knew that this moment was coming. He knew that Oliver was going to be on trial, and yet he's been holding this grudge basically because Oliver was and the rest of the team were spying on him, but also because let's face it, Oliver kicked his butt in a
Yeah,
fight,
twice.
and yeah, and he's he's butthurt about it. Get over it. I don't understand how he suddenly grew a conscience about Oliver going to jail. It doesn't make any sense. He's I don't know if they left a scene out that they had filmed that explained it better, where we saw a little bit more of a transition, but it just I was like, well, why do you suddenly care?
Yeah, I just
There's
I thought the writing was very poor during this one scene, and then
yeah,
but like what comes next is as Renee's testifying, we see Diaz walking in with Renee's daughter, and like you could almost see a switch that messes with Renee. And it was the like you can see that his it is and what I've got written here on our notes is this is some of the best acting we have seen from Rick Gonzalez this entire season. In just this one little amount of scene when he sees
yeah,
his daughter being walked in by the enemy,
hmm
and he again, of course, like we just talked about, he's testifying for Oliver. He's not betraying him or anything like that. And then Oliver sees the hurt on Renee's face and looks in the back and sees that Diaz is walking with his daughter. And of course, with Renee, he's not the main hero like Green Arrow is. He kind of looks to Oliver because, in this moment, to me at least, he still needs some leadership of what to
right.
do. And you can see Oliver give like a slight nod because he knew what he had to do.
Well, he even you hear Oliver call out Renee
Yeah.
like to get his attention, and he kind of nods like,
Mm-hmm. He
"Go ahead,
understands what he
I
needs to do.
know." Yeah,
Oh man, and I don't think I've ever hated a villain in Arrow this much with Diaz, just because of how like ruthless and kind of conniving he is, like that takes some balls to one, he's got the complete city under his thumb, and then two, he
And
abducts a child for this just to
well,
keep Renee.
he's also got the judge under his thumb.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had this thing locked down.
But
And I think though a great testament to Kirk Acevedo,
mm-hmm.
because it was what 2, 3 episodes ago where we got his backstory and he had our sympathy, right? You're rooting for him, and now here he is, and it's like, oh, I hate him.
Yeah, I couldn't.
This guy's got to get it.
I feel like this episode was, besides obviously what we've talked about with the flipping with Renee, I think this was probably the best episode this season as far as writing and story. And we're not even halfway through the episode yet, and there's still like a bunch that happens.
I think it's 1A 1B with the Diaz episode.
Yeah.
With the backstory for him. Those are probably the 2 best episodes so far this season.
Yeah. And go ahead.
And unfortunately they came on the back half of the season.
Yeah, and we're not even going to go back to the old episodes we've hated, but so as Renee is giving this testimony, he says, yes, Oliver Queen is the Arrow, and everything else. He goes, I was just trying to protect my family, yada, yada, yada. Diaz walks out of the room. And then what happens? Of course, there's a skylight in this random courtroom, and in comes the Green Arrow with the arrow theme and everything, and stands up, takes off the hood, and who is it but other than Tommy, Merlin, Colin Donnell, of course, bursts into the courtroom. He's dressed as Green Arrow, and it goes to commercial break. And I was like, what just happened? That was the craziest twist. And, I think we talked about it in last week's pre-show before we started recording, or we might have talked about it in the episode. I'm not 100% sure. But we had Stephen Amell tweeted out a video of Colin Donnell in the Green Arrow outfit sitting in Stephen Amell's chair.
Right.
So we obviously know why now.
This was a very twisty episode, though.
Yeah, they had a lot of twists. Like there was it was so much fun though. And that's what it felt like, an episode of Arrow again. But we find out that it was actually one of John's old friends in a mask that can change your looks as Tommy Merlin, and when it wasn't actually him. But what the whole point of it was Tommy acting like, which it all made sense, and I felt like it gave a little bit more backstory to Tommy's character, that he was the Green Arrow, of course, because we saw Oliver. He told his attorney that he is Green Arrow, which I think that's going to play into some more things eventually with him and the attorney's future. But we also see that he was brought onto the stand, and General Hale is what I'm going to call her, the other attorney, asked him. She goes, do you know who the Green Arrow is? And he says, yes, but I'm not going to tell anybody. He says, because I would rather go to jail than, he says, because I believe in the Green Arrow. And it was.
Well,
go ahead.
Didn't he also say, I keep my word?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He said I would protect him. So, but which makes a lot of sense. And again, with some of the acting in this episode, Stephen Amell's face when Tommy Merlin just burst into the room, that was pure shock on his face. I don't know if it was if Stephen Amell knew about this.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, but could you just imagine? Like, it was like almost the exact face I had on when it happened. Like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, "What just happened?"
I'm trying to think too. What was the name? Was it Christopher Kane? Is that what
it was? Christopher Chance.
Christopher Chance. I don't know why I was thinking Kane.
And his alter hero villain ego is Human Target.
that scene at the beginning too with Diggle uh, basically busting him out of some prison
Yeah.
overseas was pretty cool too.
Yeah, and it was nice to see a new character being brought in, and like we said, it was this Charles, Christopher Charles, what
Christopher
Chance?
Chance.
Jesus, well, I just read it. um, so he comes in, he says, "I'm the Green Arrow. I've been doing it for this long. Yes, I've worked with Oliver." He says because he's a good guy, yada yada yada. But I am the Green Arrow, obviously. And then as he's being taken away in cuffs because he does get arrested, he says, my team's just going to break me out on our way out of here, right?" And of course they do. But we see that then Laurel comes to the stand, and she of course knows who, because she's supposed to be Earth One's Laurel, and everyone knows she's Black Canary, so obviously everyone knows she works with Green Arrow. And they asked her point blank. They said, "You are under oath. Do you know who the Green Arrow is?" And she says, "Yes." He looks over at Oliver, and they ask who it is, and she goes, "It's Tommy Merlin, not Oliver Queen." And that's another twist we took this episode,
Yeah.
because that was like the final nail in Oliver's coffin, was her saying that was Oliver Queen. So she went against Diaz, and said all of this. The verdict comes back, and of course the jury still finds him guilty. But then the judge, which I'm not so keen on these lawyer, legal terms and everything, but he reversed it due to reasonable doubt. The verdict. I didn't know you could do that because of everything that happened. So the judge went against the jury and basically said he's not guilty. And then we go to the Arrow Cave. Everyone's kind of celebrating a little bit. We find out that the judge was actually Chance again, with the little mask on. Very funny. I thought that was a great way to do this. And then they said, but no one's going to believe that it wasn't the real judge, because they had his face and everything. So
right. And the judge paid for it.
Yep. The judge definitely did pay for it here at the end. We see that was this whole judge swapping thing was Renee's idea all along. And of course, Oliver goes to Renee's apartment and officially thanks him and shakes his hand. Do you think that's good enough to fix the relationship, or are we still going to have problems with them?
I think it's, well, with the way the rest of that storyline's been handled, I'd say they're just going to ignore the issues from here on out. Probably it's going to be there's going to be the awkward coming together of the team again.
I just oh man, I don't know. Like we said earlier, the judge definitely did pay for being body swapped. Diaz kills him easily. I mean, and come on, everyone saw that coming. And then we see Laurel walk around the corner, and obviously Diaz is pissed. She takes down some of his little thuggies, or whatever you want to call them, henchmen, and she knocked him out as well. But then right before she was about to kill Diaz, he stopped her by a sonic dampener, and then he kind of just walks off, and Diaz says, Plan A was to get him arrested, to have him not in the picture for a very long time. He said, we're moving on to Plan B, and we're going to kill Oliver Queen and anyone and everyone he has ever cared about. And that's how the episode ends. Of course, we have got 2 episodes left into the season finale. Early numbers for this one, 0.4 rating, which is up 0.1. And then we have 1.10 million viewers, which was up 0.23, which is a pretty nice jump. And then next episode, which is the one before the season finale, is titled The Ties That Bind. Man, I can't wait now. They've got, with this episode, I feel like we're back on track to what Arrow is. So
I just hope they can keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I hope so, at least.
We know that we don't know what's going to happen for sure in this next episode, but we know that in the finale, we get Sarah Lance. So
I still don't understand how that's going to happen,
I mean, is she going to fly in via the Wave Rider and
just kind of help out, or you'd think the whole team would help out at that point? Is this before Aruba? after Aruba. I mean,
I think it would have to be after,
yeah.
right?
I mean, but they could do time travel, so who knows? Um,
That's true.
Chris, it is time for the fan favorite segment. Who gets the glorious dishonor of being douche canoe of the week this week for our Arrowverse show?
DeVoe.
Are you mean to tell me this is the? No, he wasn't. Yeah, this is the second week in a row for DeVoe.
I think between DeVoe and Renee, they've had most of these.
Yeah, of course we'll count them up at the end of the season of Hero Cravings, so you know who got the most douche canoes and stuff like that. But yeah, DeVoe, the way he treated his wife, the way he killed that innocent guard. I mean, there's just so many ways you could have done something differently, but I feel like that was the writers showing that this guy is truly brutal and he really doesn't care about the carnage that he's leaving in his wake to achieve
Well,
his goal.
the carnage is his goal.
Yeah. So
he wants
to rule and take over everyone's mind. Now, Chris, who gets the glorious honor of Hero of the Week?
Black Siren.
Miss Laurel from Earth 2. Yeah, and we can obviously see that Quentin is having a very good impact on her for the fact that she did this, because during the episode he was like, you don't have to let him control you, and in fact she does. I feel like when he choked her out and was kind of threatening her, that was like kind of the switch for her, and because here we are, but she gets Hero of the Week. That's her first time. So, Chris, what was your favorite episode this week?
I don't think it's any secret with the way we were gushing about it. It's Arrow, man.
That was mine too.
Yeah, this was probably, like we said, it was probably the 1A, 1B in terms of best episode this season. And you're right. It does seem like it's finally back on track. A little bit of a glitch, like we said, with the Renee flip there.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that the little touches that they had in this episode, the fact that Felicity's sitting there in the courtroom with William, and the worry on his face, and then her being on the stand. What really wasn't a pivotal bit of testimony.
And what about her line? She was like, yeah, good luck with that. When the prosecutor was trying to, she said, have you ever worked for have you ever done any criminal activity like your father has?
With hacking.
Yeah, with hacking. She says, yeah, good luck with trying to prove that one. Like, with a very serious demeanor and everything. I was like, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But I just hope they make it pay off with the finale. I'm worried for Quentin.
Yeah.
Because we know we found out this week Paul Blackstone will not be back next year, at least as a series regular.
Well,
that's the way I saw it written, was he will not be back as a series regular. So I'm hoping they don't kill him off.
Yeah, because this is someone who's been in the season since season 1 with as long with Speedy.
Right.
And he even tweeted out this week that it's been such a fun journey. I've loved every single minute of it, and I thank Arrow and Stephen Amell for everything they've done for me. So,
hey, wouldn't it be amazing? Because we're gonna have Sarah Lance in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be amazing if he joined the crew on the Wave Rider?
Oh, and he's kind of like a behind the scenes kind of guy.
Like maybe he's the one at the computer.
Oh, see, yeah, that'd be fun. We're reaching, Chris. We're reaching.
Yeah, I like the character. I want to see it around.
And we've met him several times at these various cons. Paul Blackthorne's a really good dude, and he loves his work.
Yeah, Blackthorne. I think a while ago I said Blackstone.
It's okay.
I'm getting old. My memory's going.
Now, Chris, we put out a question last week on Twitter, and I apologize. I only had it up for 24 hours, and I was late posting it as well. But we still had 3 votes. And our question was last week, is it possible for Oliver to turn everything around this season? 0% said absolutely, and then 100% of everyone said not a chance. So not a lot of faith in Oliver this season to turn everything back around.
No.
And then our question for this week, which will again be posted on Monday for sure this time, is will Mon-El return to the future with the Legion, or is he going to stay behind with Kara and the DEO? Well, what's your answer for that one, Chris? Do you think he'll return to the future, or do you think he's going to stay?
Uh, I have a feeling that he's probably going to stay.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to explain, though. I wonder what will happen if that is the way that it ends up, because he is married to Imra. And they've mentioned before how they have people that are counting on them in the future. So he is a member of the Legion of Superheroes. So he kind of has an obligation.
Right. Yeah, that's me personally. I think he'll return with the Legion, just because of he's essentially moved on with his life, and he, like you said, he does have a lot of people depending on them in the future.
I'm partially basing my answer off the fact, though, that he and Melissa Benoist are an item.
Yeah.
And
she wants him to be employed as well.
Right.
Well, everyone, that is it for this week. Don't forget to share and review this on iTunes and whatever social media you use. Don't forget to follow NerdWide on Twitter at nerd_wide. Of course, that's where our poll is going to be. Don't forget you can follow me personally at Ty_Haynes. You can follow Mr. Rivers at MavTN7. And if you do follow us on any of those social media handles, don't forget, let us know where you come from. Spark up some conversation with you. We would love to hear from you, the fans. But, as always, I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with the man himself, Chris Rivers, and we cannot wait to share our thoughts with you next week.
Later.